Federal appeals court heard arguments today about whether the Trump administration's use of National Guard troops in L.A. was in fact lawful.
California sued the federal government, alleging it was a misuse of the military. Our investigative reporter Eric Leonard has been following the case through the courts. He joins us live now with an update. Eric.
Hi, Michael and Colleen. Well, a three-judge panel at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals challenged lawyers for both California and the federal government over whether the demonstrations and protests against immigration enforcement that happened back in June in downtown Los Angeles were an extreme enough crisis that they required the use of National Guard soldiers. And even though most of those soldiers have now been sent home, a decision in this case could have a major effect on the president's plans to send troops into other cities.
The key issue before the judges today, whether anyone can challenge a finding by the president that there's a need to use the military on the streets of a city, like what happened in L.A. on June 6th and 7th, when huge protests formed outside federal buildings in downtown and federal law enforcement agents said they needed backup. The lawyer for the Trump administration argued today that no one, not California and not the courts, can even challenge the president's decision on the need for the military.
I do think the president, who again, we should remember, independently takes an oath to uphold the law, could be deemed to have abused his discretion in that sort of instance. But I don't see how that can be made a proper subject of judicial review under this statute.
He also argued once the president sends in troops, they can be kept in place forever. There's no time limit, and no one has legal standing to object.
Congress left to the president's discretion to make the determination of when the danger has sufficiently abated that he can release the officers back to the National Guardsmen back to state control.
Governor Newsom announced the lawsuit against the use of the National Guard in June, and last month, a district judge found the deployment had violated the Posse Comitatus Act. That's the law that's supposed to keep the military out of civil affairs. California's Solicitor General, arguing in support of that judge's ruling, said there was never a legitimate need for soldiers in Los Angeles.
The problem as we see it is there is no effort whatsoever to explain why military forces were necessary, why it was necessary for the federal government to rely on military forces to supply that manpower, those resources.
So about 4,000 National Guard troops were sent to L.A. back in June. There are only about 300 that are still activated. The Ninth Circuit's decision here could put a limit on the president's use of the Guard or other military troops in other cities, like in Portland, where a different panel of judges declined to stop another National Guard deployment earlier this week. I'm investigative reporter Eric Leonard, NBC4 News. Back to you.